Last lecture, we have discussed about autoencoder, PCA, what are its uses, its comparison, and today we'll study or we will continue in this lecture about the different types of autoencoders. As I told you that there are around 7 types of autoencoders, but mainly there are three that has been that you can see in red color: denoising autoencoder, sparse autoencoder, and the contractive autoencoder. So we will be studying one by one each of these three. So the first one is denoising autoencoder. Denoising autoencoder creates a corrupted copy of the input by introducing some noise. Basically, what happens? As the name suggests, that denoising autoencoder. So denoising means it introduces some noise in the corrupted copy, which helps to avoid the autoencoders to copy the input to the output without learning features about the data. Means what we give as an input, just that input should not be as similar at the output place. It do introduce some noise within that. Then these autoencoders take a partially corrupted input while training to recover the original distorted input. Means that it generally it says that when the noise is being introduced in between the data input data, so it learns or it gets its training from the features which is being introduced, and it does not copy the same input at the output place. And these autoencoders take a partially corrupted input while training to recover the original undistorted input. Means when once the noise is being introduced, that partially it accepts that partially corrupted input, and then it gets trained to ultimately recover the original undistorted input at the output place. The model learns a vector field for mapping the input data towards a lower dimensional manifold, which describes the natural data to cancel out the added noise. Means the model, that whatever we are proposing or what we are working on, it learns a vector field for mapping the input data. It maps the input data at lower dimensional manifold, and which generally describes the natural data to cancel out the added noise. That mapping process is there so that the inbuilt or the induced noise can be cancelled out. Now coming towards the advantages of denoising autoencoder. First, it was introduced to achieve good representation. Such a representation is one that can be obtained robustly from a corrupted input, and that will be useful for recovering the corresponding clean input. Then corruption of the input can be done randomly by making sum of the input as 0. Remaining nodes copy the input to the noised input. Means that whenever the noise is being introduced, so what it do actually, by making input as 0, some of the inputs, what does it make? It makes it a 0, and the remaining nodes just copy the input to the noised input. It minimizes the loss function between the output node and the corrupted node. Means ultimate aim is to get the minimum amount of noise at the output point. So there is it gets minimized. It minimizes the loss function between output node and corrupted node input. Setting up a single thread denoising autoencoder is easy. This is a pattern, or this is a way of setting up denoising autoencoder that is up in a single thread. Now drawback is also there. To train an autoencoder to denoise data, it is necessary to perform preliminary stochastic mapping in order to corrupt the data and use as input. Means this is the drawback, that first you are introducing noise, then you have to first have a stochastic mapping between the corrupted data and the input. Then this model isn't able to develop a mapping which memorizes the training data, because our input and target output are no longer the same. And meanwhile, one more drawback is that this model is not able to develop a mapping which memorizes the training data, because you know that the mapping, the input and the target output, they are not same all the time. So that was about denoising autoencoders. Now comes the sparse autoencoder. The sparse autoencoder uh, the sparse autoencoder the sparse autoencoder have hidden nodes greater than input nodes. They can still discover important features from the data. A generic sparse autoencoder is visualized where the obscurity of a node corresponds with the level of activation. Sparsity constraint is introduced on the hidden layer. This is to prevent output layer to copy input data as it is. Sparsity may be obtained by additional terms in the loss function during the training process, either by comparing the probability distribution of the hidden unit activations with some low desired value, or by manually zeroing all but the strongest hidden unit activations. Some of the most powerful AIs in 2010s involved sparse autoencoders stacked inside of deep neural network. The advantages of sparse autoencoders that it have a sparsity penalty, a value close to zero but not exactly zero. Sparsity penalty is applied on the hidden layer in addition to the reconstruction error. This prevents overfitting. They take the highest activation values in the hidden layer and zero out the rest of the hidden nodes. This prevents autoencoders to use all of the hidden nodes at a time and forcing only a reduced number of hidden nodes to be used. Now, apart from advantages, it also have drawbacks. For it to be working, it's essential that the individual nodes of a trained model which activate are data dependent, and that different inputs will result in activations of different nodes through the network. That means you can understand that from sparsity, what does it do? In the hidden layer, it induces zero. The values that they introduce is not exactly zero but the close value towards zero, and this generally prevents the overfitting. And if we talk about the drawback of sparsity at sparse autoencoder, so we can say that the data dependency will result in activation of different nodes through the network. Then coming towards contractive autoencoder, the objective of a contractive autoencoder is to have a robust learned representation which is less sensitive to small variation in the data. Robustness of the representation for the data is done by applying a penalty term to the loss function. Then contractive autoencoder is another regularization technique just like sparse and denoising autoencoder. However, this regularizer corresponds to the Frobenius norm of the Jacobian matrix of the encoder activations with respect to the input. Frobenius norm of the Jacobian matrix for the hidden layer is calculated with respect to input, and it is basically the sum of square of all the elements. So you must be getting the difference between sparse, then denoising, and contractive as well. So what does it do in contractive? The objective is to have which is less sensitive to small variation. Robustness of the representation for the data is done by applying a penalty term to the loss function. We are applying a sort of penalty term to the loss function, and this is also a regularization technique. Basically, Frobnier's norm of the Jacobian matrix for the hidden layer is calculated with respect to input, and it is basically the sum of square of all the elements. If we are coming towards advantages, contractive autoencoder is a better choice than denoising autoencoder to learn useful feature extraction. This model learns an encoding in which similar inputs have similar encodings. Hence, we are forcing the model to learn how to contract a neighborhood of inputs into a smaller neighborhood of outputs. So, this was the advantages of autoencoders. Thank you.